evening. My name's Joanna Innes. I'm our district parent mentor. I work with our 504 IEP or families that have a student that potentially could have a disability. Tonight, I'm going to go through a little bit of housekeeping. On February 9th, Church of the Resurrection, which is the school that's the church that's right next to Lewis Elementary, they're going to be hosting a prom, a big dance, if you will, for our any adults or kiddos that are age 14 and up. It is going to be a free event. It is sponsored by the Tim Tebow Foundation and Church of the Resurrection. There's information on their website. On February 20th, Open is going to be hosting our next presentation on financial planning with Tim Fairley. And finally, on February 24th, the parent mentors of Solon, Hudson, Twinsburg, and Nordonia are hosting our Everyone's an Artist art show again, another free event where you can come with your students, preview some art that our students have participated and graciously shown, and it's going to be up on the walls. There's going to be craft stations for them to participate and engage in and bring home, a lot of make and takes. There's going to be balloons by Blake. And there's going to be some artisans that are going to be there to demonstrate and show kids how to do some crafts. It's a real fun activity. It's at the Twinsburg Community / Senior Center. And it's from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I hope you can make it. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into tonight's presentation. I said to Lynn Hutchison, our Director of Food and Nutrition, a few months ago, I said, Lynn, because we're colleagues here at the Board of Education, I said, Lynn, I'm so confused. I'm trying to feed my kids. There's a lot of messaging out there. Don't eat this, eat that. There's this coating on that. And I'm like, I'm so confused. I just don't know what to do. And I told her, I said, the one thing that just doesn't fail us is Oreos and Doritos. And she's like, Joanna. And I thought, you know what? We need to have a presentation on this because I can't be the only parent that feels this way. So Lynn Hutchison is going to give us a beautiful presentation on everything us as parents, what we need to know about feeding our children. So thank you, Lynn.
So to make one correction to Joanna's statement, she reached out to me 2 weeks before school even started when we were still on summer vacation and asked if I could do this. But yes, absolutely, I'm so happy to come out here and present to all of you tonight. I am, as Joanna mentioned, the Director of Food and Nutrition at Solon for the district. I'm also a registered dietitian. So looking at it from two different ways, where you're looking at it from the nutrition side of things and from the food service side of things, and it's a juggling act. As a parent, as a professional here at the district, it's hard to know what to feed your kids. So let's look at what I have together is a comprehensive look at all the details. There are some things that we can skip over. If you say, nope, doesn't apply to us, we can jump over those. But we can drill down on some other things that maybe we're glazing over and you want to get more information. So as we go, please ask questions, give me feedback on what you want to learn more about. So nutrition basics. We all know, most likely, the food pyramid. That's what we were taught in school. That's what they had for many, many years from the government saying, here's how you should eat. It's been revised to My Plate, and you have in your packet, I think it's the third page, some more information to take home and read through. But the My Plate boils down what your healthy eating pattern should look like every day. And it is very simplified. But for the most part, half of the plate should be fruits or vegetables. That depends on how big your plate is. That depends on what your fruits and vegetables are. There are some variations here in how you have to interpret this. Excuse me. And the other half should be grains, whole grains, and protein. And the dairy there is optional for most people. So dairy was added in kind of as a secondary thought to this My Plate because dairy isn't always a necessary part of your balanced diet. There are some cultures, there are some families who can't eat dairy at all. So really what they're looking at there is how to get your calcium, your vitamin D, and some extra protein. And there are other ways to do that. So we'll touch base on that as well. The biggest issue as parents is how to get the fruits and the vegetables incorporated into that meal and how to get your kiddos to eat it. Because 9 times out of 10, the protein, whatever you're serving as a protein, it gets eaten right away. That's the easiest thing to pitch. Grains are easy as well, and if you're incorporating whole grains into that meal, whether you're doing half white rice and half brown rice, or if you've fully jumped into the whole grain bread, the whole grain rice, those are easier to pitch than, hey kiddos, let's have some broccoli. Let's have some celery. Do you like all those things? Yes. Broccoli is my favorite vegetable, so I like to talk about broccoli. But some easy tips and tricks on how to get your kiddos to have more vegetables, to have more fruits. Veggies first. I have 2 3-year-old twin boys, and when I sit them down for a meal, the first thing they have on their plate are their vegetables. So when they're sitting and they're waiting for me to get the rest of the stuff on the table, they start munching on those veggies right away. They don't even realize it. They've already eaten their vegetable. We can move on to the rest of the meal. So that is the first thing, because they're hungriest when they first sit down. They're not thinking about, well, I have this better option on the other half of my plate. That's what they go to first. Get your child involved. Have your child choose and prepare the fruits and vegetables. Do they like apples, oranges, bananas, carrots? Focus on those. And then slowly add in other choices as well. If they're involved in the process, if they're helping to make the decisions, they will be more invested in what they're eating. Go undercover. So this is a sneaky tactic. I don't always like to do it because a lot of times we're hiding things when really we want it to be the focus. I want them to know the flavor of spinach. I want them to know the flavor of broccoli. If I'm putting it in a smoothie, they're not really getting that. They're not learning, they're not training their taste buds. But if it's a last resort, going undercover and disguising your vegetables and fruits is a great way to do it. Sauces, pizzas, wraps, sandwiches, smoothies. I mean, we even have spinach muffins, and we call them Grinch muffins at home. So there are lots of different ways that you can incorporate things into other dishes to get that flavor, to get that mouthfeel, so they're getting used to those fruits and veggies. Use familiar favorites. If your child loves ranch dressing, use the ranch. Okay, so it has some extra added fat to it. It might have some extra calories. That's okay. I would rather them eat the vegetables with the ranch than not eat the vegetables at all. It's a trade-off, and eventually they learn to scale back on the ranch or to eat it without the ranch or whatever dip they choose. Be a role model. It's very, very important that they see you enjoying and participating in the fruits and the veggie preparation, the meal planning, and the eating of it. If you're that role model and they see you saying, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever eaten, they're more likely to feel that way as well. And sending those positive vibes. Don't ever talk negatively about fruits and vegetables. We never say like, ugh. In the cafeteria, the kid comes through and says, I don't like broccoli. And I say, yeah, me neither. You shouldn't try it. That's not the right message. As a parent, as a food service worker in the cafeteria, we never want to get that message across where there's something negative about them. There's enough bad media about fruits and vegetables. We don't want it coming from the home too. The next big question, looking at that My Plate, is looking at what to drink. As I mentioned, milk isn't always a necessary component of the meal. There are some families that, yes, at every meal there's a glass of milk, and that's fantastic because you're getting wonderful nutrients from that. But for those families that don't drink milk, there are so many other alternatives. Water, number one, should be the main beverage that everyone is drinking, whether it's tap water, bottled water, or even sparkling water. But I have on here, timing is key. If your child's got a little tiny belly and you're filling it up with bubbles before their meal, they're not going to eat anything. So the sparkling water is a wonderful thing, and it's a wonderful treat because it feels fancier, right? We all think it feels fancier. They're going to feel that way too, but don't put it before the meal. Have them eat their meal, add that sparkling beverage at the end, and then it's a nice little treat to finish off and have, as an ending dessert. The government recommends fat-free or 1% milk. So some of these things we talk about here, I have my own personal professional opinion, And then we have the government recommendation. Government recommendation is fat-free or 1% milk. Depends on how you view it. And we're not really going to get into those details because my opinion versus somebody else's opinion, you know, it's all good. But we're looking at calcium, vitamin D, and protein, as I mentioned before. If you can't have dairy but you still want something creamy, fortified soy milk or almond milk is another option. There are tons of different alternate milks now. They're all pretty good, but you're looking at, does it have the same nutrients as cow's milk? And does it have a lot of added sugar? So weighing those is also an important part. And then the last part is 100% fruit or vegetable juices. Totally an acceptable part of a day. Limit it to 4 ounces for your child. Adults, they recommend 8 ounces at most of juice per day. Kiddos, you're looking at a half a cup. So it's not much. Maybe just with breakfast. If they don't like milk or water at breakfast, the juice is fine at breakfast. Another great way to get them weaning away from juice is to cut it with water. Start out with 1 ounce of water and 3 ounces of juice, then go to half and half, then slowly work your way down. Sooner or later, they don't even notice that there's a difference in taste until they try the full flavor again, and it's like crazy, crazy strong. So that's another way just to start weaning people off of that extra sugar, that extra calories, if you're looking for that. And always, we're limiting pop, sports drinks, fruit drinks, energy drinks, coffee drinks. All of those are packed with sugar. Many, many, many of them are packed with strange ingredients that we don't really want to put in our children's bodies. Stuff we can't pronounce, stuff we don't know what it is. So try to stay away from those. There are some more natural versions. And if you're looking at, hey, I want to give my kid a root beer float, absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit later about treats and incorporating treats. There's always room for a treat. But we have to be mindful of what treats we choose, when we choose to feed them to our children, and how we want to go about doing that. But the main goal here is to look for a nutrient-dense and hydrating beverage. Questions so far? Okay. All right, so looking at snacks now. Snacks are a confusing thing. What do we like to go to for a snack? A bag of chips, maybe some cookies. I mean, I love a bag of chips. If I open up a bag of chips and I am not thinking about it, I could eat that whole bag of chips. I'm sure there are other people that can do the same thing. Lots of different ways to cheat that. Using a bowl to portion it out. You're pouring in 1 serving into that bowl and you are only eating that serving. The same thing applies to your kiddos. Think of snacks more as a mini meal. You know, snacks for adults are different. Snacks for children, that could be part of their nutrition for that day. Maybe they're not big at mealtime. Maybe they don't love the 3 meals a day, but they like 4 mini meals throughout the day. Totally acceptable. There's nothing saying we have to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and that's it. We could have a mini breakfast, a mini morning snack, a lunch, a mini afternoon snack, and a dinner. And that's completely acceptable. You're building it appropriately. So in here, you got to remember my plate. So you're not looking at junk food. We're looking at whole, real foods for these mini meals. If you are going to offer a snack sometime during the day, make it 1 to 2 hours before a mealtime. If you're making it too close to that mealtime, whatever effort you made to make that meal, you're going to be saving it for leftovers because they're not going to eat it. Children eat smaller portions and may need more than 1 snack per day. So that 4 mini meals, 5 mini meals, that's okay. And the best combination you're looking at here is a combination of protein, fiber, and healthy fat. If you give them a snack that is a cracker, most crackers, if not 99% of crackers, are just made out of refined carbohydrates, white flour. That gets processed really quickly in your body and turns into glucose, gives you quick energy, and then it's gone. If you give your child a cracker with some peanut butter on it, so you're getting protein and a healthy fat with that peanut butter, it slows down digestion. It takes it longer for your body to digest, to provide energy. It is a slower energy. It lasts longer. So it doesn't burn up as quickly. They're fuller for longer. They have more, what's the word I'm looking for? More staying power in terms of that snack. So I do give some suggestions here. Your front page of your packet does have some snack ideas on both sides. It looks at how you can mix and match different things to put together this protein, fiber, healthy fat combination. But you never really want, I'm giving my child grapes. Fantastic. That is a perfect snack, but give them grapes with a piece of cheese or with a handful of nuts. Because then you're having that wonderful combination where you're slowing the digestion, you're making that snack last longer and provide more usable energy. Anybody with picky eaters in here? Okay, this is a tricky topic because every child is different. Every child is going to have those few things that they do and don't eat. And then you have kiddos that just really don't eat anything except for one thing. And that's okay too. When they're young, if they choose to only eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at every single meal, that is all right. They will not become malnourished. They will not have nutrient deficiencies. But what we need to do is to pair that with other options. Continue to provide other things, and they're going to slowly work their way out of it. No person has ever eaten peanut butter and jelly for every day for the rest of their lives. So it is something that we kind of have to grin and bear, even though it's very hard as a parent and the person preparing the meals to live with that. So here are some tips about this. If your child says, I don't like this, if there's something where they don't like a certain texture, or they don't like a certain color, or they don't like when their foods touch each other, any of those combination foods are hard for some kiddos. Try asking them, before you get frustrated, because we can all fly off the handle when your kid doesn't eat what you've just worked hard preparing. Say, how can I make this better for you? What is it about this that you don't like? So you can take those mental notes and prepare it differently next time. So it might be as simple as, it's too hot, it's too cold, I don't like those weird green things in it. Take the green things out. I think it would be better if I could dip it in some ketchup. All okay to do to adjust to those needs. So in this situation, again, as with the fruits and the vegetables, it's important to have your child help you. Help with the menu planning, help with the preparation, even with the shopping. Kiddos love picking out fruits and vegetables at the store. It is a fun thing, and it's a skill that they need to learn. If they're going to grow up and move out, which I hope you all are planning for one day, they need to know how to choose produce. They need to know how to choose meat. What am I looking for here other than just grabbing one and leaving? So help them help you by preparing those meals. Model enjoyment of the food. Again, it's very similar to the fruits and vegetables. But in this situation, you want to encourage a one-bite rule. Anything that I prepare at home, if they look at it and say, no, I'm not eating that, you have to try one bite. After one bite of chewing and swallowing, you still don't like it, you don't have to eat it. And that's fine. Because there is, and it's crazy as it sounds, it will take kids 10 to 15 tries before they accept a new food. Sometimes, yes, mac and cheese, cool, I ate it, I loved it, we're one and done. If you're adding a new food like artichokes or asparagus or something that's got a very strong, different flavor, 10 to 15 tries, their taste buds start to adjust. They start to accept it more, and they will eventually like it. I hated tomatoes for my entire life until I became an adult, and now I absolutely love them. I kept trying them, and eventually you adjust. The same thing goes for your children. So that is really the key here for a picky eater. We're never going to force them. We're never going to give them a negative connotation. You have to eat this. Absolutely not. They will put their foot down and they will never eat it. So if we create that positive environment around it and we encourage that one bite rule, just try it once and you don't have to eat it. With that though, pair it with familiar foods. Okay, I know you love pizza. You've never tried asparagus before. We're going to put them together. That sounds like a weird combination, so maybe not. That's not a good example. But we're going to have these together because I know you're going to eat one of them. But remember, put that asparagus on the plate first. They'll come to the meal. Pizza's still in the oven. Pizza still hasn't been delivered yet. They're going to munch on that asparagus, they're going to try it, you're going to have a positive conversation about it, and then you can finish it with something familiar, with something that they do enjoy. Serve foods family style, so kids can choose what they're getting. Don't pack everything onto their plate, because sometimes if you put too much, it just becomes overwhelming. They're gonna know how much they need to eat. Their bodies can help guide that, especially with the really little ones. Their bodies know how much and when they should get those calories. We start to lose that as adults because we override it. You know, we could sit down and eat a giant meal at a restaurant even though we're full partway through. But we've said to our brain, no, this is too delicious, I'm not stopping. Kids don't have that. They do have a trigger that turns it off. So they can work with that family style meal, and it will help them incorporate more foods. And then the last thing here, and I always want to emphasize this, you're not a short order cook. Your kids, let's say you had 4 kids in the household, and each kid said, I don't like that, I want mac and cheese, chicken, pizza, sandwich. No. That's not your job to make all those different meals. Your job is to say, here's the other option. Give one alternative for the whole family, and that's okay. Usually for us, it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If you don't like what we're eating, you may have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then you can eat your fruits and vegetables, and then you're done. I promise you, they will not starve. One meal does not make or break the situation with your kiddos. Here's an important thing to remember, and it's not talked about very often. The division of responsibility in feeding. And again, a lot of this starts when they're very little, and if you incorporate it as they grow, it becomes easier. Parents decide what foods and beverages to serve, right? You're ultimately the meal planners. We want your kiddos to help, but you're the one making the decisions. You go to the store, you pay for it, so you're the ones that decide that. You decide where to serve the meal. You decide when to serve the meal. All right, we have soccer at 7 o'clock, so we got to eat at 6 and we got to get out of here. And the tone of the meal. Is it positive? Are you nagging your kids to eat? Are you nagging your kids to come to the table? Or are you making it a family event where you're talking about your day, you're talking positively about the foods that you prepared and how excited you are to eat them? Your children, on the other hand, decide whether or not to eat, and if they don't eat a single thing, it's okay, because they can have a mini meal later on that has part of what you're already serving. Let's say you were serving strawberries as the fruit and chicken strips as the meal. That mini meal later on, when they're extra hungry, could be those strawberries and those chicken strips. So you can repurpose the foods you've already made for that and just serve them later on. If they've said, absolutely, I'm not hungry right now, I'm not eating anything, don't say, fine, you can go to bed hungry. I mean, yes, it's okay if you do that. I have said that on occasion, but generally, they're going to be ready for that mini meal an hour or two later. And it can be the exact same thing you were serving earlier, they just weren't ready for it yet. And they're going to decide how much to eat. The clean plate club, not really a thing anymore. While we like to see it, we don't like food waste. We don't like not seeing people, fill their belly to what we think they should be filling their belly to. But those kiddos know. They know what they should be eating. They know how much they should be eating. So that's where you're really going to need to separate yourself sometimes, because it can get frustrating when you've done all this work, but your job is not to decide whether they're eating or not, and not to decide how much they're eating. Just 3 more bites. You got to finish that vegetable before you can have, no. Don't train them to put more in when they don't need to be putting more in. They will compensate. Have you ever noticed that if they eat a very giant breakfast on a Saturday morning, you've made pancakes, you've had a wonderful time, they eat a huge breakfast, they might not eat that much for lunch. It's okay. Totally okay. Because then when you swing back around to dinner, it might be a bigger portion again. So how can you support healthy eating habits? I can't say it enough. Model that good behavior. Model what you want them to do. If you're not eating those foods, they're not going to buy into it. Doesn't work that way. Offer healthy snack options. Is it okay to have junk food? Yes, by all means. Junk food is a part of the world. Everywhere you go, there's junk food, there's fast food. But you need to teach them the balance. Okay, well, maybe later we'll have a few chips while we're watching TV or while we're playing a game together. But right now, let's say this is after pre-dinner snack. Right now, maybe let's have some celery with peanut butter, some carrots with some cheese. Looking at some of those trade-offs to get them to eat those healthy snack choices. And making those healthy snacks easy to access is key. If you have an independent child who's a little bit older and they're going to come in and grab whatever's there, don't put the chips right in front of them. Put the healthy options there and have the chips somewhere else that you can access and do it together. Encourage children to stop eating once they're full. So the rule of thumb here, and it's very, very hard because most of us don't even know, when you're 90% full. Sometimes you have to stop and check yourself. I'm eating. Before I go up for that second helping, stop and think. Am I all the way full? Am I 90% full? Because I'm 90%, you're going to feel better. You're not going to be exhausted. You're not going to feel laden down with food. So this is a good rule of thumb for all, any age. But teaching your child, are you actually hungry? Do you really want more? Or did it just taste good? Maybe we should just have one more bite and not a whole serving. So working on that 90%, it's a very non-tangible thing. And it's a hard one. So practice it yourself and then see if you can try and incorporate with them. And then teaching younger children about food groups, where food comes from, and healthy eating. Just talking about local farms, talking about, oh my gosh, did this grow on a tree or did it grow on a vine or did it grow in the dirt? They love that. They love knowing where things come from. They love going to farmers markets and seeing the farmers that grow these items. It becomes more exciting and more real. It's not just I bought it from a shelf in the store. It has an origin. So if you're looking at more enthusiasm for those healthy items, talk to the real people. There are lots of farms that let you come and tour them. There are hydroponic farms all over the place that you can tour. They welcome people all the time. Case has a beautiful farm that they bring people into. They grow mushrooms, they grow all sorts of produce. So there are lots of places in the area that are easy to access, especially in the summer, well, obviously in the summertime, but go to those places. Take a field trip. Teach older children about reading nutrition labels. The little kids, they need to know food groups. Is this a fruit or a vegetable? Is this a meat? We often get confused about, well, this is chicken. Everything's chicken. No, there's beef and pork and fish and all sorts of seafood. Everybody pigeonholes right into chicken. But looking at those food groups, and then as they get older, teaching them to make more educated decisions about food labels. How do you read a food label? What are we looking for? What are we seeing? What's the positive? What's the negative? Where are we going from here? And then making healthy choices away from home. Joanna's got a new driver, and he goes out to eat. So how do we teach them to make those healthy eating decisions when they're at a restaurant with their friends, when they're stopping at Starbucks? There are ways to work on that with your child. And then, as I've mentioned before, treats can be woven into that healthy eating pattern. I would never, ever, ever say, we're never eating a donut again. Because then what happens? You go for 5 years without eating donuts. Your kiddo goes off to college. Well, what do you think they're going to eat 1 million of? Donuts. So restriction is never the answer. There's always room for those treats. There's room for ice cream. There's room for donuts. There's room for chips. But it has to be part of the whole healthy eating pattern. Have I eaten well all day long? If you said yes, then by all means have that treat. Because restricting is only going to cause people to branch out later on and to go a little bit wild. I had a dream when I was a kid that I was going to, when I went to college, eat an entire can of whipped cream, just ready whip. I've never done it. I feel like that would be the most awful thing now. But that was what I wanted to do. And all kids have some type of thing that they're like, I am totally going to do this. I'm going to make the most giant ice cream sundae ever. We have those fun fantasies because it's enjoyable. Food is enjoyable, and we should continue to keep it an enjoyable experience and pepper it with these treats throughout. All right, how important is family eating? Family eating is very, very important. There's a lot of research on eating as a family. While it's not always possible, because we have so many extracurriculars now, we have kids going in one direction and another direction, and a parent that has work that they still have to get to, family eating, as much as you can make it a priority, do so. Involve your child, model healthy eating habits, and then sit down as a family to eat it. Whether that means your entire family, a part of your family, maybe it fluctuates day by day depending on your schedule, but it builds stronger relationships among the family, it improves communication, and it fosters healthy eating habits. So much research out there on how important it is to sit down and eat as a family. Minimize distractions. Put your phone away. Turn the TV off. You're here to be with each other. Include all available being the key word here, family members. Engage in conversation. And togetherness is more important than location. So let's say you're going from soccer practice to track practice, and you have 45 minutes in between, and you got to feed everybody, but you have to do it in the car. That's okay. It's still a family meal. Doesn't matter where you are. You're on a picnic bench outside. You're sitting on a curb, but you're together, you're eating, you're engaging in that wonderful communication and relationship over the food you eat. All right, areas of common concern. So here are things that we've pinpointed as what do we need to focus on? What do we need to be mindful about? Fruit, vitamins and minerals, important for growth and development. We all know that. The pediatrician will pay attention to these types of things as well. Looking at My Plate and the recommendations from My Plate, looking at the healthy eating pattern, you're going to get the nutrients you need. That's why it's designed the way it is. Picky eaters, vegetarians, and vegans are at a higher risk for nutrient deficiencies, mainly iron, calcium, vitamin D. And if you are concerned, talk to your doctor. Your pediatrician will be able to look into it further. They can run blood tests, they can check those things. So if this is something of concern, by all means look further into it, but do not worry if there's not an extenuating circumstance that there will be a nutrient deficiency. But in this situation, if you have a picky eater, vegetarian, or vegan, there's a sheet here, it is the last one, that just shows a few sources of those items. These are items you find in milk. If you don't drink milk or you don't eat dairy, here are other ways to get them. Meat, leafy greens are a big one, broccoli, fortified grains, yogurt, cereals, fish. So lots of different ways to get these same nutrients without just drinking your milk. Did I skip that? Oh, I did. Hold on. I'm jumping. So that being said, if you're worried that your child has a nutrient deficiency, do they need a vitamin? Should I give my kid vitamins every day? The way I look at a vitamin, it's an insurance policy. Does your kid need it? Maybe not. Is it going to harm them? Absolutely not if you take them as the recommendation says. 1 vitamin a day. The water-soluble vitamins, if they have enough in their body, they just pee it out. I know it sounds crass, but it's true. They come right out with the rest of the water in the body, and then they retain whatever vitamins they do need. The fat-soluble vitamins do hang out a little bit more, but vitamins are formulated to have the right proportions depending on how the body utilizes them. But one thing I do recommend to pay attention to, vitamins are a tricky thing because they are not all tested by a governing body. The FDA does not regulate vitamins for any age group. So things to pay attention to is, does the vitamin that you're using, that your child is using, have a third party looking at it. Because there are vitamins that have been tested, there's a few documentaries on it. They test them and they have other ingredients in them that they didn't have on the label. Or they have incorrect proportions compared to what they have on the label. So I always recommend, if you are looking for a vitamin, you're looking for one that has the NSF or the USP labels on them, because that is saying that either the National Sanitation Foundation or the US Pharmacopoeia group has tested these as a third party and has verified that what they say is on there on the label is actually inside that vitamin. So I don't want to get too far into vitamins. Again, that's something you would talk to your pediatrician about just to make sure it's an appropriate thing for you. But usually, you're looking for third-party testing. You're looking at following the label and making sure you're providing the appropriate amount, not too many. A lot of them taste like candy now, so you just want to make sure you keep them away from your kiddos. Should I be reading food labels? So I recommended that your older children should be learning how to read these because they are everywhere. For the most part, I don't look at food labels. I look at ingredients. I'm a big ingredient person. If I do not know what this ingredient is, A, I'm going to look it up because I want to know, and B, if it's weird, I'm not eating it and I'm not feeding it to my kiddos. So always, I recommend looking at the ingredients. If there's more than 5 ingredients, be a little skeptical. Look a little further. Find some more details. But looking at nutrition facts, it's a nice guideline for you. It is not the be-all, end-all, but it is something that you should pay some attention to. So you're looking at calories, the amount of calories in a serving. Sometimes the serving is the whole bag, sometimes it's not. Sometimes there are bottled juices, bottled Gatorades, that you think, oh yeah, this is the whole serving, I'm going to drink the whole bottle. It's really half a bottle is a serving, or a third of a bottle is a serving. Pay attention to the serving size and the calories. And then you're going to want to look at the top half are the things you want to avoid. These are the things that you want them to be low. Fat, saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, sodium. You want a lower number. The bottom half are the things you want to be higher. You want it to be a good source in these things. Dietary fiber, well, not necessarily the sugars, but dietary fiber and protein, and then your vitamins and minerals down below. Choose foods low in those top items, choose foods high in the low items, or in the bottom items. And then you can also look at daily value. Daily value, again, is a ballpark number. Anything that is 5% or under means it's low in that nutrient. So if I say over here, oh, saturated fat, 5%, it's a relatively low saturated fat value. Could be lower. And then greater than 20% is high. So in this case, my iron, this is a 45% in iron. It's an iron-rich food here. I don't know where what label this was for. But look at that as a guideline. Don't base every decision off of the nutrition label. What about artificial sweeteners? Is this a topic we want to touch on? Okay. So artificial sweeteners, the FDA has approved the use of all artificial sweeteners. We are allowed to use them. We are allowed to sell them. We are allowed to buy them. Do I recommend them? Personally, no. Because they haven't been around long enough. We do not know the longevity and the effects after using them for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. They're just too new. And I don't trust super new things because, one, they're not nutrient dense. We would rather be looking for a more nutrient dense option. So most of the things that have artificial sweeteners in them, they're junk food anyway. And if they're not, you don't want to be fooled by the labels. Labels like no sugar added or 0 sugar or sugar free. You're like, yes, this is great. There's no sugar in this, because they've replaced it with artificial sweeteners. So you got to look at that label again, look at those ingredients and see, is there some weird artificial sweetener in here that we shouldn't be feeding our kiddos? We always try to avoid those and stick with the things that are real, the things that are naturally made.
On the label, what would the artificial sweetness
So on nutrition facts, it does not tell you. That's where it gets confusing, because if you were to look, if there was something that just had artificial sweetener in it, your total sugars, your added sugars would be 0. So you say, oh yeah, there's no sugar in there. If you were to look at the ingredients that says sucralose, aspartame, xylitol, those are all your artificial sweeteners. So I probably should have given you a list of the names of artificial sweeteners. That would have been helpful. I can always provide that afterwards to Joanna if you guys are interested in that. But learning those names, just to be able to reference and sight read a label, it would be valuable if you're looking to avoid those. Can my child eat vegan or vegetarian? We have a lot of kiddos in the district who are vegan and vegetarian. And whether it's a parent decision or their own decision, absolutely that's something that can be done, and can be done relatively easily now. The world is full of vegetarian and vegan options. They've started to incorporate more beans and pulses into everybody's diet, so we're able to add those nutrients in appropriately. What we need to pay attention to for our younger kiddos is making sure that there is enough protein in their diet. So easy to get though. Tofu, tempeh, whole grains, soy milk, nut butters, beans, lentils, they're all over the place. And there are many, many recipes available now that if you just Google, what can I do with lentils? The world is your oyster for that. They even have a Sloppy Joe version made with lentils, and it's phenomenal. Some nutrients are a concern: iron, vitamin D, calcium, and vitamin B12. Those are primarily found in animal proteins. So those are the things you would want to be most concerned with. There are ways to get those in, usually leafy greens, whole grains, fortified milk sometimes. And then if your child is vegan and you're looking at vitamin B12 as an issue, that's where the pediatrician could come in, because there are supplements they can provide there. But if well planned, they can absolutely have a vegan or vegetarian diet. You just have to be very mindful of how they're getting the protein and the nutrients that are being restricted from the other foods. All right, nutrition hot topics. And I know I like to talk apparently. So what if my child is dieting? So if we have folks with older kiddos, usually older kiddos in this situation, we need to destroy the word diet. It's not a thing anymore. Dieting was big in the 50s and 60s, and they had grapefruit diets and all these strange diets that people were going on to lose weight. They work temporarily, they don't work long term, and they certainly do not help with your whole body nutrition. You limit things, you restrict other things, and you end up missing out on entire food groups, on nutrients, and ultimately the enjoyment that food can provide that we need to learn to balance better than just, nope, I'm just going to take it all out of my diet. Teens who diet are more likely, and these are things that you would look at, be unhappy with their weight, have lower self-esteem, feel less connected to their family and friends, perform poorly in school, and feel tired and unmotivated. This type of dieting is where we're restricting, where we're cutting out food groups, where we're not eating carbohydrates. When people say, I'm off carbs now, carbs are in everything. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, they all have carbohydrates in them. So reframing how we look at dieting, and instead of that, looking at how do we build a healthy eating pattern? I never use the word diet. I always use the words healthy eating pattern, because you're looking at making that balance. Where are my treats? What have I been doing the rest of the day and eating the rest of the day? How can I make it all work together and throw in some physical activity? So we haven't even talked about physical activity. That's a totally different thing. But again, talk to your doctor if your child is preoccupied with weight. No one should ever be preoccupied with weight. They should be thinking about, how can I change this food to make it more delicious? How can I add this broccoli to my meal? How can I get out there and have a dance party and get some extra exercise in? There are ways to make that a more positive thing than, oh, my weight, I can't even look in the mirror. And a lot of the times, we as adults are the ones who start that conversation, because we as adults are very critical of ourselves, and we look in the mirror and say, it's swimsuit season, I can't go out there yet. Your kids listen to that. So we have to be good role models for this as well. What does TikTok have to do with nutrition? I still don't understand TikTok. I'm not the best person to talk to about this, but there are so many social media avenues that talk about food all the time, and it's all fake. There is one TikTok person, whatever you would call them, what I eat in a day, and it's just people taking pictures of what they eat and talking about all the weight they lost, or I only ate bananas for 3 weeks and I, lost 50 pounds. None of that's real. And that is what our children are listening to. It's catchy, it looks great, you're seeing one little portion of what's happening behind the scenes. So we have to be very careful with social media, all social media platforms, when it comes to food, because they are showing people who, for the most part, would be considered malnourished. If you're seeing bones and you're seeing body parts that really shouldn't be protruding, and they're swinging it to say, hey, I ate all these great foods and I lost all this weight and this is what I look like now, that's not healthy. That's it is. Oh my gosh, so many filters and lighting and oh, it's incredible. So social media is very tricky, and it's hard to even give recommendations on it, but be involved. Try to encourage those healthy eating habits at home. Share the importance of gathering information from a licensed nutrition professional. Those people on social media do not have a degree in anything. Here's the tricky part about dietetics. So I am a registered dietitian. The term nutritionist is not a real term. They do not have a medical license. They do not have anything saying they've gone to school for anything. So nutrition, anyone can call themselves a nutritionist. You're going to look for a registered dietitian if you're looking for real professional information. And start that dialogue. How does this post make you feel? Could we find something else that makes you feel less self-conscious, less whatever, and having that open conversation with them? You could even say, I'm not sure I like how she's making this look. Make it about yourself, not about your child, and they'll be invited into that conversation as well. All right, organic. Does organic mean better? So, again, the controversy between organic and conventional farming hasn't been around that long. So there's still not enough evidence, very much like the artificial sweeteners, but there is information showing that organic foods are higher in vitamin and mineral values, lower in heavy metals, synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, obviously, because we're not spraying them with chemicals, so they're going to be lower in those items. However, due to inherent differences in diet composition and bodies and everything, there is no hard data saying one is better than the other. So it really comes down to your personal preference. But I will say, if the choice is eating this vegetable that is conventionally grown and sprayed with chemicals, or not eating it at all, eat the vegetable. If you have to choose between conventional and organic, and you can afford it and you can build it into your lifestyle, go organic. So it's kind of a tiered thing. Eat the vegetable however you can get it, even if it's frozen, even if it's canned, it's okay. And to be quite honest, frozen veggies actually have the highest nutrient density compared to fresh, because frozen veggies are frozen at their peak ripeness. Something that's fresh has been picked and shipped and stored and shipped, so they lose some of their nutrient density as they age. So if you're looking for the biggest bang for your buck and the biggest bang for your nutrient density, frozen vegetables would be your best bet. Or if you're going to that farmer's market and you're getting it picked the same day or picked the day before, you're still with high nutrition value there too. And can I teach my child about sustainability? I don't know if this is on your radar at all. This is a big thing for me. I hate food waste. My family has gotten very used to leftovers because whatever we don't eat that day, it is going to be repurposed. So sustainability for us is very important, and it's looking at conserving those natural resources. And it's becoming more prevalent everywhere. Everyone's focus now is sustainability, whether it's energy, food, water. How do we help the environment? How do we help the foods that we're growing? How do we help our farmers? Go meatless. It's the easiest way. The amount of water, the amount of food, the amount of energy that it takes to produce that cow that makes the hamburger is significantly higher than it is to produce a plant-based item. Beans, nuts, even eggs. So going meatless, whether it's just one day a week, one meal a week, just plant-based snacks, however you can incorporate plant-based items. And I'm not saying Impossible Burgers. I'm saying true plants that were grown and picked and you're eating them. That's the version of plant-based we want to look at. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So take your reusable bags to the store. That's back now, so we can use them. And Giant Eagle's forcing us to do it. So that's always a perk. And then shop local. I can't say enough about local farmers, farmers markets, even community-supported agriculture, so CSAs. You can sign up for a subscription. And each week, there's a group that aggregates all the foods from the farmers, and you go up and you pick your bag up, and you've got eggs and milk and meat and vegetables and fruits all in that bag from your subscription each week. So lots of different options for that local sustainability side of things too. And that's my spiel. Does anybody have, I just like totally gave you the entire world of nutrition in 1 hour. Thank you. Thank you all. Clearly I love nutrition, I love talking about food. So I do have cards that I will leave over there. If you go home tonight and you think of a question or you have something more specific about your child that you want me to take a look at, I'm happy to do so. So grab a card on your way out, but thank you. Thank you all.
You are such a gift to our district.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if anyone is driving down Som Center Road and notices a beautiful glow coming out of the Board of Education. That would be Lynn's office. She has this hydroponic tower that glows 24 hours a day.
For the most part.
And she is growing greens for our students and staff for their lunches. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Oh, I do. I love talking about my lettuce. So we, as you can tell, my focus really is local, sustainable practices. And it's hard when you're working with the government, which is what we do for the National School Lunch Program. We get government commodities. We work through different processors to get things. I wanted something more close to home. So we started growing our own lettuce. Right now it's in my office, so it's kind of just a nice little happiness in the middle of winter. It will eventually be taken care of by the environmental science classes over at the high school. So they're going to be growing and learning from that, and then we get to benefit by eating the lettuce. So the high school and the middle school have both gotten 2 different harvests of the lettuce so far this year, and it is phenomenal. I can't say enough about the flavor and the crunch to it, and it flies out of there. You know, I sent 4 bins over right when we got back from break, and they ate them within a day and a half. So I was like, oh, I need more towers. So it is a really, really cool initiative that we have. I'd like to keep expanding it because, I mean, who doesn't love freshly harvested food? And that's really where we need that conversation too, at home, at school, and then they're getting more into the groove of those fresh fruits and veggies.
And speaking of the conversation, I want to point everyone's attention to their school's PTA newsletters or even their websites, or I should say their PTA Facebook pages. Lynn and her staff are always trying to reinvent the menus and getting feedback from the students and even parents. And there is a survey going around so that they could really engage in what the kids want to eat. Do you want to share a little bit about the survey that's going out?
Yes, for sure. It should be coming out, if it hasn't already, from your school-based communications from your principal. So there's a QR code or a link in there for you to fill out the form. And it's looking at from the students' mouths. You know, yes, we have our own opinions about foods, and yes, there are lots of restrictions that we have to deal with in terms of how we menu plan. But I want to know from the students, is this product working? Is this recipe working? What should we change it to? I'm the one that plans all the menus, so I change them all the time. We're coming up with, hopefully February, we're going to do a global week where every day, we're going to choose a week, and every day of the week there's a different global menu. Chicken tikka masala, cheesy enchilada soup. We're trying all sorts of different products, and then whatever works will be incorporated into the menu. So we test at school, we taste test, we talk to the students, but we want to know what they say to you when they go home, what that feedback is. Because sometimes it's much more honest when they're at home talking to you than if they're talking to us and they're like, oh yeah, it was good, and then they run away. So having that conversation at home too on how can we improve here, what can we do to serve them better?
Wonderful. So keep a lookout for that. Thank you for your expertise and sharing it with us. I'm like in awe of the difference between a registered dietitian and
That is a little known fact.
yes. So thank you so much for your info
Absolutely.
tonight, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks all.